Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about the conflicts, currently conflicts, plural, against the U.S. empire and why they are being successful. Let's talk. Good morning, Garland Nixon here, and we're going to talk about the conflicts against the U.S. empire currently, the conflicts that the U.S. empire have embroiled themselves in, and why they're being, in my interpretation, as successful as they are. So, maybe it's my nature, and I've noticed this. Have you ever noticed this? That when someone meets a person that's similar to them, or someone reads an article that espouses their beliefs, they always say things like this: "That's brilliant," because it always seems brilliant. It always seems brilliant if it agrees with you, right? I think that's just the nature of people, right? But at any rate, let's talk about this. What's the U.S. now is involved in two major conflicts, and one that excuse me, let me put it this way: two hot conflicts in one simmering conflict, for the most part, right? The simmering conflict would be the one in China, and of course, the U.S. is trying to employ a diplomatic and economic tactic. So they've got a diplomatic and economic war against China. I would also argue there are some hot areas in that, the United States does utilize terrorism, does utilize some of its terrorist proxies. And if we look in Pakistan, we've had some instances where there were areas that the Belt and Road Initiative was being worked on, that there were bombings, there were attacks that killed some Chinese people. Who amongst us does not believe for one second that the U.S. Intelligence agencies are not part of that? We're not part of that. Additionally, you look at some of the countries in the Asian area where the U.S. is employing what it calls soft power, everything from propaganda to bribery, etc., to try to overthrow governments and put in place governments that will be sympathetic to the U.S. empire, and basically quizzling traitors that'll, Ukraine. They're trying to Ukraine their countries. We'll use Ukraine as a verb here. Okay. And then, of course, there's Russia. And then, of course, there's Russia, Ukraine. And then, of course, there's the Middle East. Now, let's start with Russia, Ukraine. Um, again, you watch my channel, how long have I been saying this? People like in Russia, out of a lot, I guess a lot of them out of anger and out of emotion, have been saying, let's finish them. You got them down. We have the power. We've got the military power. Let's crush, as my best friend, his football coach, used to always say, kill a gnat with a sledgehammer, right? Let's go ahead and slam them. And all along, and Russia set up all of this, people set up everything's in place, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of troops, and people are saying, all right, they're getting weak. Take them out. And I've all along have said this: if time is your best weapon, utilize the weapon. Sorry about this. Utilize the weapon of time, right? Whatever your best weapon is, use it, the weapon of time. If it's distance, if it's time, whatever it is, right? And in the instance of Ukraine, it was my feelings that time was on Russia's side. The longer this thing drags out, the more here's an example of why, particularly in the U.S., long, slow conflicts work against the U.S. empire. This is very important. Number one, the government, the foreign policy of our government is foreign to the people in the U.S. The people in the U.S. have no idea what and why their government is doing things. They don't understand the ideology of their government, right? So you have people who think we're out there doing good things for good reasons. However, once they find out the truth that our government is a malevolent force in the US and in the world, right? They the support for any conflict that we're in is going to start to deteriorate over time, and it's going to crater over time. Reason being, the ideological arguments for whatever conflict we are involved in does not align with most people in America. It aligns with some, but most it doesn't. So they got to lie to the people. And over the course of time, bit by bit, the truth leaks out. And particularly now that we have alternative media, they got about a year to year and a half. Within 2 years, the truth has almost fully leaked out, and you're just going to have the schmucks, the diehards who'll support, their party or their leader or whoever, right? But a vast amount of a vast number of the people, when they find out the truth, are going to say, hey, I don't like this. This doesn't align with what I want. So whenever you have a long simmering conflict, you create that time period for the truth to leak out through alternative media and other means to the people in the United States, to the people in the US empire. And the support is going to deteriorate. Additionally, you have the effects of whatever that conflict is. There are going to be economic effects. They may be more difficult getting things that they need from that, etc. People are going to start to feel the economic effects. People are going to bit by bit start to question, why are we in this conflict? So time works against the US empire. Reason one, because they have to lie to the people about why they're doing whatever they're doing. And as the people find out, the support for war is going to deteriorate, and then eventually it's going to crater. And then the US leadership will be in trouble, because at some point there's going to be another election. There's going to be cratering, and and they're going to have to take that into account, etc. Okay. That's one thing, but sometimes they can get over that. They can get around that, right? But there are numerous factors. Now, number two, the US empire traditionally would pick a fight with a little guy. So it was a long simmering war, but they could do it. Afghanistan, you got a bunch of people. You don't have a traditional fighting force. You don't have a traditional war. You don't have a major, powerful fighting force. So what you get is, you get pinprick attacks, you get small attacks, you get a small number of losses. They can hide that stuff. They can keep it quiet. The American people don't feel it much. So you're in Afghanistan for 20 years. People will question it, but they're not really feeling the pain necessary for them to really start opposing it. So they're going to question it. Now, you get to Ukraine, you get to the Middle East. There's great pain to be felt. A lot of the economic pain that's being felt by the American people are as a result of the US's conflicts against China and Russia. Right now, that's making things cost more. It's driving up the price of energy. It's driving up the price of raw goods, right? It's making it more difficult. For instance, to give an example, if the US was open to business with Huawei, that'd be really good, nice, cheap phones that Americans can get. I don't know if you're familiar with Huawei. Their phones are good and they're cheap. They're very inexpensive, right? In comparison to Samsung or Apple. If the US didn't have this war against China, people would be able to get Huawei phones and they'd buy these cheap, good phones. And you know what would happen? Apple and Samsung would have to make cheaper, good phones in order to compete. They'd have to make some cheap phones that people could get that would work. It would drive down, you know what it would do? And see, this is what they're trying to stop. Think about this. Perfect example. I remember when flat screens came out, and good flat screens came out, and a friend of mine, member of my family, in fact, bought this really nice flat screen TV. It was $5,000. It was $5,000, right? Well, there's Chinese flat screen TVs on every corner, on every place you can go. And how much is it for that same flat screen TV now, right? That was a high end when it was $5,000. A high end flat screen now you can get for $1,000. A nice one with lots of stuff. You get up to 1,500, 1,600, you got a hell of a TV, right? China introduced these inexpensive TVs, and it brought the price of the TVs. They were making them everywhere now, even the ones in South Korea, etc. They all got to be very inexpensive because they've taken Huawei out of the market. They've removed Chinese technology. They're still selling these $1,000 Samsung and iPhones. If China ain't out of the market, you're buying cell phones for $150. And that's why, they don't really believe in that market crap, free market. This garbage, it's trash. They do not believe in it. No government intervention, exactly the opposite. It's all government intervention, and it's a fake market. Let's keep going. So over the long term, prices are more expensive because of these conflicts. But let's look at Ukraine. If there was a big smash or crash very, very early, then the U.S. empire would be stronger right now. One of the things that I've said about what that Russia has done, and I put it this way, used an analogy, they built a trash compactor in Ukraine. And they called the U.S. empire and they said, trash compactor is open. Can you please fill it for us? And the U.S. empire said, well, okay, we got M777s, we got Leopard tanks. We'll throw these things in the trash compactor. Smash. More, please. Okay, well, we got some Bradleys and Strikers, Smiker, Fiker, whatever the hell. Here you go. Here's some more. More, please. So here's what Russia does. Here's our trash compactor. Every time it gets empty, they just call over here. Can you send us some more military crap? Yes, we can. And we send them more. It's the greatest thing. I mean, this is really brilliant. I don't know if it's intentional by the Russians or not, but it's brilliant strategy. I mean, they're just like, we would like to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine. And the U.S. empire is like, while you're at it, can you demilitarize us also? And Russia's like, don't mind if I do. So off we go. And every other month, these idiots are like, hey, do we have any other stuff that we can send to Russia for them to blow to hell? Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. Send it over. Boom, it's all gone. So we've sent all of our ammo over. Russia's and the Ukrainians just fire that off like they're firing firecrackers. We send all of our hardware over. The Russians are kind to oblige us and blow it to hell. And so what do? They've been taking a year and a half of a massive demilitarization effort of the U.S. empire. Because look, if I fear I have to fight you, right? If I think, oh, I'm going to have to fight this guy, what's the best thing to do? I may have to fight you. Yeah. Can you give me your guns? Sure. Here's all my guns. How about, you got any other weapons? I got some knives. Okay. Can I have those too? There you go. Thank you very much. You got any other weapons? Well, I got a blackjack, some sap gloves, nunchucks. What about those? Thank you very much. So I just keep handing you my weapons and you keep throwing them in the trash. And now I say, now, if we have to fight, good news, you ain't going to have nothing left to fight me with. So that's what the Russians have been doing, just demilitarizing the U.S. empire. Worked perfectly. Also, over the course of time, and this is critical too, what has happened is the U.S. empire has been forced to take positions on warfare, right? And forced to say, since the Russians always got to be evil and bad, we've had to take concrete positions. The U.S. empire doesn't want to take concrete positions because of the level of hypocrisy that it takes to be an empire and to try to be the world hegemon. So Russia blows up some energy infrastructure, some electricity infrastructure. Von der Leyen tweets, hey, that's a war crime. You're cutting off people's water and electricity. Boom, we got that. Okay, thanks a lot, von der Leyen. We will file that over here under statements that idiots made to be used against them in the future, right? So they keep doing things. Oh, they're killing children. Thank you very much. We'll take that, file that right over here under idiot statements to be used against idiots in the future. So what they do is, over the course of time, the U.S. is forced to take concrete position after position after position because they know that at some point the U.S. is going to violate every one of those positions. They're going to act contradictory to everything that they've been saying for the last year and a half, and the Russians are going to be right there. And anyone else in the United States, even dissidents like myself, are going to be standing there, and we're going to reach in the file of idiots, the things that idiots said that can be used against them later, and we're going to say, let's see, I'm going to go with this statement right here from Ursula von der Leyen, where she says cutting off the electricity and food and water to civilians is a war crime. There you go. Let's stay, and we'll just weed through them. And as the United States takes the opposite position, we will remind them and the world of their hypocrisy. piece of cake, works out well. Next, we look at over the course of time the type of people that the U.S. has supported and how they've supported them. And the moment that gets filed also under, oh, you're really anti-terrorist. We'll use that later, and I'm sure that we'll see that later. But now, so all of the things that have happened, the U.S. empire and its vassals have been weakened economically, have been weakened militarily, have taken all kinds of positions to be used against them hypocritically. Meanwhile, also, Russia and China have taken the opportunity to do other things, to build a diplomatic foundation in the global South, to go to Africa. Hey, would be a shame if you were to overthrow this puppet government of the U.S. and toss them out, Niger. I'll put it like this. I don't know that Russia or China assisted the people in Niger or Burkina Faso or wherever with overthrowing the governments there and throwing out the comprador class, right? The U.S. empire puppets. I don't have any evidence that they did that. I wouldn't be shocked if they did, but it wouldn't be hard. You know why? Because those coups are popular, because the people are behind them. So it wouldn't shock me if I'll put it like this. At minimum, they were probably inspired by, say, Russia, China, because let's not forget, you had an Africa summit in Russia. And I seem to recall Russia saying something about the Africans about we would be happy to help ensure your sovereignty. Just a hint, maybe just saying, throwing it out there. If you were sovereign, we'd give you a hand. Just throwing that out there, okay? Within days, Niger was overthrown. Mali's overthrown. Within days after the end of the African summit. I'm just saying there could possibly be, at minimal, a inspirational connection where the people, the Nigerians or whoever said, hey, the Russians said this is a good idea and they'll help ensure our sovereignty. I think we'll make a move. Again, over the course of time, diplomatically, politically, the Asians. Now, what else happened over the course of this time? The Chinese, they go into the Middle East and they're like, hey, Middle East, yeah, how about we help bring you some peace? By the way, here's some loot. We'd love to build you some ports, maybe some airplanes, some school airports, some schools. What do you think? The Middle East is like, sure, thanks. And by the way, since we're giving you a lot of loot, how about Saudi Arabia and Iran? You guys bury the hatchet, shake hands. And they're like, well, you're our biggest trading partner. Why wouldn't we do that? Right? So you get a foundational diplomatic and political foothold in the Middle East. And if you understand what happened with the rapprochement between Saudi and Iran and what was going on underneath of it, you understand that Russia was intricately involved in that. That China, Russia has a very long history of very good relationships in the Middle East, and China was at the forefront. They were in the front of it. They were the face of it. But there was a whole lot going on underneath. Russia was intricately involved with that. And don't you fool yourself into thinking that would have happened without Russia, right? And their long history. You got Russia with a long diplomatic history in the Middle East. You got China with the present. They're funneling a lot of money and they're buying stuff from these people. And they're like their number one oil partners. Hey, man, money talks. Bullshit runs a marathon, right? China's got China's, got money. And Russia's got, friendship and diplomatic ties. Okay. So all this goes on over the course of these last, whatever it was, 19 months of this slow drag in Ukraine. And the U.S. empire is getting broker and broker. They're getting poorer and poorer. They're getting, okay. So I'm not an English professor. Okay. But you get my point. I like, if you understand it, one thing about me, when people talk about language, garden language, yeah, I tend to make an effort to speak in everyday language because I just want people to understand what the hell I'm saying. And if that's the way I came up. I don't like doing that academic crap, right? I'm not into like, oh, there's a dangling participle. We can't have that. Screw that. My participles dangle. I talk the language of the everyday common man. Okay. And don't tell me I didn't add 5 more genders. Hey, he said common man. There's 12 other genders. Yeah, I only know 2. Okay, I'm old. My number of genders is very, very limited. I'm sorry I didn't come up with all of blue hair and 50 genders. Forgive me. But at any rate, so let us continue. Now, we go to the Middle East. I'm telling you, I think everybody's like, oh, yes, if this happened, Iran is going to get involved if the U.S. does this. Here's the thing. I think, again, in the Middle East, the way to take this monster out is to bleed it slow. The way to take this monster out is not to take it head on, to slam into it, to smash into it. Because it's like if you're fighting a muscle-bound person, whenever people in the self-defense they're into lots and lots of stretching. Even if they work out, even if they lift heavy, they're into lots and lots of stretching. Why? Because you don't want to get muscle bound, as you call it, right? You don't want to be in here real strong, right? You're powerful, your muscles are in here. But if you're muscle bound and you're real strong, shall we say, your sphere of influence, you can't reach out, you can't strike from a distance. If somebody grabs you in a lock and does that, you're muscle bound, you won't stretch very well. I've seen people who are very, very flexible. Somebody grabs them, they can almost take their wrist back and touch here, and they just spin and wiggle out of it, and and because they're flexible. Read the Tao, right? In the Tao, one of the things they talk about is things that are brittle are weak, things that are flexible is strong. A tree, what happens with a tree? A tree gets a heavy wind and a real strong, heavy tree snaps off. Pow! What happens to a palm tree? A palm tree can bend all the way over and almost touch the ground. The strength is in flexibility. The weakness is in being brittle and hard and strong. That's a strength. That. So the empire is brittle. It's hard. It's strong. It has a big punch. It wants to get into a muscular punch. Like fighting a person, what do they want to do? A big, strong person. They want to grab you and bear hug you. Right? This is what they want to do. They want to, and everybody knows this about fighting. They want to bear hug you. They want to throw you on the ground. They want to pin you with both knees on their shoulders and pummel you in the face. That's what they want to do. That's because why? They want to strike the head to incapacitate you. They want to put you in a position where you can't defend yourself and pummel you in the head. That's what the big brute wants to do. Bear hug you, throw you on the ground, pin you with his knees on both shoulders, pummel you in the ground. Knowing that, you have to look for the weakness of this brute. Oh, you're going to grab, you're going to do this. Well, wait a minute. I don't care how big you are. You got fingers, don't you? I can get those fingers and snap them. I don't care how big you are. You got a groin, don't you? You got toes. You got the top of your foot. I can stomp on that. You got a kneecap. You got eyes. You got a chin. Can you stop me from under here and making your head snap back? Take both hands and you're in close and come up. Like that, right? Just think if you take both hands and your hands come up and that chin, I don't care how big you are, a strike, wham! That chin goes back, snaps that head back. Oh, wait a minute, the throat's available. See what I mean? I don't care how big and strong you are. There are areas where you just can't build muscle. There are areas, your ears, clap those ears. Put that, eyes. There's so many things you can do to find the weaknesses of the bully. The big, strong guy is going to have weaknesses, and you can take advantage of those weaknesses, right? If their arms up, guess what? You got ribs here. I don't care how strong you are. I can strike those ribs and break a rib. You can do all kinds of things. How strong are you? Can you keep your head from turning? If I can strike your head and turn your neck, snap your neck and kill you. There's so many things that can be done against a brute. So when people see the power of the United States, they don't understand that huge, brutish, muscular power has a bunch of weaknesses that can be exploited. One of the weaknesses is time. And the Russians and the Chinese. Think about this. How much sense does this make? The United States is only 250 years old, right? It's young. And it thinks I'll get big and strong like the young guy. I'm going to get big and strong and muscular, and I'm going to punch you out, right? I only got 250 years of experience. China, what's Russia been? 1,000 years? China, thousands of years. Iran, these are the Persian empires that are very old. So they don't have to get muscular and punch you out. They understand. And sooner or later, if I just keep doing what I'm doing, sooner or later, you only got 250 years. I got 1,000. 1,200, 1,500 years. Well, if I've been around for 1,000 years or 2,000 years, right? Then certainly a couple more months or a couple more years don't mean much nothing to me, do they? Don't mean much to me. So when the US goes up against these cultures that have been around for a long time, the US is thinking, yeah, we got to fight it out. I got to win this week, this month, within the next month, within 8 weeks, we got to crush them. And they're like, hey, I'll defeat you. And if I don't, my kids, if I don't, my grandkids, my great grandkids, sooner or later, you'll fall. At some point, you'll fall. It's the guy who's better conditioned. If you're going to be in self-defense, you got to learn two things. You got to have strength and speed and power and things of that nature as best you can, as best as you can develop. But you have to have great ability to fight a long time. You've got to do exercises that'll give you long breath. You got to be able to fight it out. You know what happens? You fight somebody, these big strong guys, right? They're like an alligator with these big muscles. You know what I mean? An alligator has to wait until just the right time to attack and punch because they know they're big muscular creatures. And what do muscles build up? Lactic acid quickly. So the alligator doesn't chase you down. He just waits because he knows it's all a burst for him. And he sees you, and when you get in range, wham! He goes for the hit. And if he doesn't get it, then he waits again, because he knows he just can't keep hitting. All those muscles are going to create lactic acid, and he's going to get really, really tired, and he's not going to be able to fight or defend himself or anything, right? So that you got the big muscular animal that lunges and attacks suddenly, and if it doesn't get home quick, it has to go back and relax again and wait and rest up for the next attack. Right? That's the big muscular brute. The U.S. empire is a big muscular brute. It's too big and it's too muscular. And now it has weaknesses that are being exposed. Now think about this. If you look at the conflict, as I've said, you see my videos way back. I said the U.S. is at war with the world. It's at war with modernity. It's a war with the world. The world has transitioned to a multipolar world, right? Where just one group, one power doesn't run everything. The world doesn't want a US-led world order anymore because it is unjust, and the world wants a just order, and it holds certain people down and at the expense of the U.S. The U.S. gets all the benefits, and a lot of people have to suffer, and everybody has to do what the hell they're told. The world is done, that's over, and the U.S. is fighting against the world and against modernity to hold on to something that they've already lost. So the U.S. is not just at war with China. It's not at war with Russia. It's not at war with Iran, Hamas. The U.S. is at war with the world. It's at war with change. And the nature of reality is change. You don't fool yourself into thinking you are the same person that you were 6 months ago. You know different things. Your hair has grown. Your teeth have grown. You've got cells. Lots and lots of cells have died and been replaced with other cells. You're a different person than you were. Reality is change. That is reality, right? And the U.S. is saying we can't have this kind of change. We've got to resist change. There's multipolarity. No, that's a change we don't want. We're going to stop this change. Yeah, good luck with that. It ain't happening. Change is going to run you over. Change is a Mack truck, and you are a Chihuahua. The only thing a little doggy can do is bark at this Mack truck while the truck goes by. If it gets in front of the truck, it's going to get flattened. The U.S. thinks it can control the world, and it can control modernity, and it can slow up all of this stuff. The only thing it's going to do is get bowled over by that Mack truck. That's reality. That's change. So the U.S. goes to the Middle East. So first of all, fires up this thing with Russia, and Russia takes their time. Vladimir Putin must be watching my videos, and they're like, why would we do a big offensive? We'd lose a bunch of people, we'd win, and the U.S. empire would say, oh, look, they're giant brutes, and blah. Lots of civilians would get bombed and killed, and no, it wouldn't look good. We got time. As long as these idiots keep sending us military, you send some F-16s. Isn't it perfect? The Russians have just developed this new anti-air system, missile that can hit from further away and really can devastate airplanes. It's almost like a dance. almost like they're working together. You look around. So the Russians have these new anti-air missiles that are apparently hypersonic, and they've got really long ranges. And so they're taking out these Ukrainian airplanes, I think like 24 in 5 days. And it's devastating. The Ukrainians just about can't fly. And just right on time, the US says, we're training some Ukrainian pilots for F-16s. And the Russians are like, yeah, we could have timed that one better. Thanks for waiting until we got these new missiles. We were going to shoot them down. There'll be a little bit more of a problem. We're going to shoot them down. But we got these new, it's almost like they got the new missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, and they called the US. Hey, Biden, yeah, all right, we're good. Send the F-16s. And Biden's like, sure, no problem. Hey, we'll send the F-16s right away. And they're like, right now, Russians are like, what they're doing, like when aircraft, apparently these are air-to-air missiles. When an aircraft shoots down another aircraft, a lot of times they'll put a check mark or something for each one. The Russians are sitting there right now, and they're like, they've got their graphic designers decide what kind of check marks they're going to use as they shoot down these F-16s. What a perfect dance. Hey, I got a new aircraft missile. Can you help me out? Well, I can send over some F-16s. Thanks. We'd love it. We need to practice. Great work. These people are idiots. So let's move forward. So let's go to the Middle East. The Israelis are saying, oh, by the way, one other thing here that's critical. How's the Ukrainian economy doing? Oh, that's right. It doesn't have one. A significant part of Ukraine that had all kinds of minerals and all kinds of stuff is now part of Russia, and it ain't ever coming back. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians, how are they going to plant? They're having trouble with fuel. They're having trouble with things. So now the U.S. empire pays all the bills for Ukraine. Ukraine is officially more so than the 51st state, because we don't have any state where the U.S. pays for, where the federal government pays for everything, every street sweeper, every politician, the pensions, healthcare, everything. It is the ultimate welfare state. So the Russians have demilitarized NATO, and they've created an economic drain with a welfare state, and they've solidified their position in the global energy market, right? With they're even closer than ever to OPEC plus, and the plus is Russia, right? Okay, and OPEC is infuriated at the U.S. No friends of the U.S., that's for sure right now. So let's move to so what's happening? Demilitarize, run it out of military crap. And of course, last but not least, and most importantly, economically, diplomatically, complete and total loss for the U.S. And now we got a new stooge that we got to support. Zelensky's whole Ukraine project is now an economic drain for the U.S. And bit by bit, Slovakia went to hell. Right. You've got country, as far as the U.S.'s empire is concerned, Orban, you've got country after country, the quislings and traders that run the various countries in Europe are starting to fall politically bit by bit. And the European people, at least now, are starting to figure out that they got no sovereignty. It's just an occupied land. They have no sovereignty whatsoever. Zero, forget it. They're run by puppets. The U.S. empire is using them, taking them, deindustrialize them, and wasting them away. They are dispensable assets. Expendable assets may be better. All that's going on. And then we get to the Middle East. So now the U.S. comes, and what does the big brute do? It parks some big aircraft carriers over there, right? And it's ready to throw some big punches. We got aircraft carriers. We got all this kinds of crap, right? We're going to let you have it. Let me go to this article. So they got these big aircraft carriers, right? Which are big. How long can they keep them on station? Forever. They put them there when the brute gets ready to fight, and he's going to be, like it's going to be like the 1940 boxing or something. His fists are going to be out like this, right? He's ready to throw a punch, but he can't hold that but so long. How long can the U.S. just, hey, we're going to put aircraft carriers and all of these things ready to go, right? So they're over there ready to go. Meanwhile, Hamas Hezbollah. Guess what? They were there when we got there. They can stage, as they say it. They can be prepped and ready for eternity. That's where they live. They don't have to bring in assets, prep assets. That's what they do. That's what they live. They can be prepped for a fight. They can be on high alert. If a fight breaks out, fine. If not, they can continue to skirmish. They can do what did Ho Chi Minh said. We'll come out of the jungle, we'll strike you, we'll go back in the jungle. And we'll keep doing that. And sooner or later, you'll lose. Sooner or later. And the US is like, aha, we took out all of these people on their side. Oh, we killed Vietnamese. We killed 100. We killed. And the Vietnamese were just like doing the same thing. We'll come out of the jungle. We're going to strike you. We're going back in the jungle. You know why? Because we live here. We ain't going nowhere. We got time. As they say, right? You got the watches. We got the time. What did the Vietnamese do? They dragged it out. They kept striking slowly but surely. What happened? The public support deteriorated for Vietnam. The losses kept piling up, and sooner or later we had to get the hell out. Israel. Let me ask you something. Israel. Well, we're going to fight for a long time. This will go on for 18 months. What's Israel's principal means of income? Where's the real money come in? Diamonds. Israel makes big money in diamonds. And tourism. Huge in Israel. Tourism's huge, right? All these people from all over the world. They got all these sites. People that Christians pilgrimage to there. And hey, look at this church. This is where Jesus went in a rock or a cave or whatever the hell. Hey, Jesus walked down this street and bought an ice cream at that corner store. What's the name of the corner store? That's the Jesus ice cream store. What flavor do you have? Give me the thorny crown flavor. I'll take one. And you make $1 million. Everything is religious. Jewish people all over the world. Let's go to Israel and we'll get a yarmulke that says, my dad went to Israel and all I got was this yarmulke, right? You go there, everybody's going to Israel, checking it out. They're making big bucks. I wonder how their tourism industry is doing right now. I got a funny feeling it's not all that good. In fact, not only is the tourism not doing well, anyone in their friggin' right mind who also, which is a lot of Israelis, also just happen to have a residency in the U.S. or Russia or wherever the hell is like, yeah, I think I'll get out of here until such time as these rockets stop falling around. Maybe I'll come back later when things smooth out, right? So if you are in conflict with Israel right now, why would you want to blow it up? Why would you want to be? You're like this. Tourism's your problem, huh? Yeah. And your economy, tourism and diamonds, right? Yeah. And you can't really do the tourism and diamonds thing while you're involved in multiple conflicts. Can you? No, I can't. Okay. So if I want to take you out, all I got to do is drag out these conflicts forever. I don't have to defeat you. I don't have to send 100 missiles in and blow up all your bases. I don't even want to do that. Because then you can rebuild, you can start over again, you can whatever, the US can come in, you can have a big crash, the US can blame it on Iran and go give a big crash on Iran. I don't want to do that. Not only that, you might get some sympathy. I've set this thing up. You're going to keep doing bad things. You're going to kill civilians. You're going to do things that are detrimental to your cause. And that are going to justify my attacks against you, justify my strikes against you, right? And if there's a major attack against U.S. bases, they can leave, they can strengthen, they can do whatever they're going to do, right? Okay. You got U.S. bases all over the place. What if I just keep hitting them? What if I just keep hitting them? I'm not going to launch a major attack and try to run them over. There's missiles going to come in tonight. Mortars are going to come in tomorrow. Drones are going to come in the morning. And you're going to just have to constantly defend them. There will be no sleep for you. There will be no rest. There will be no respite every single day. We ain't going to send all of our missiles in overnight. Nah, all of our drones. Nah. We're just going to keep elbowing you. Boom, boom, boom. Every day, every night, every week, every month. and we're not going to stop. You can stay here in the Middle East, don't get me wrong, but you ain't going to get a comfortable night's sleep. We're going to drag this thing out. So now, here's what we got. The Russians are in Ukraine, blowing up shit. Blowing up. What are we doing in Ukraine? Same thing we did yesterday. We're blowing stuff up. These idiots are sending us some new Leopard tanks. We're blowing them up. Hey, what about the Challengers? Yeah, they're kind of nice. They blow up nicely too. We're sitting here hoping that we'll get some F-16s to target soon. We don't have any now. They're running out of planes, but there's hope amongst the troops and the anti-aircraft defense guys that these lunatics will send us some F-16s because we really need practice shooting them down. And, we're tired of going on the computer and, targeting. We're playing, video games, shooting down F-16s. We want the real thing, doggone it. The U.S. has to send us some F-16s. And once they do, we'll take care of it. Somebody else brings up a good point. And that is, one of the principal Israeli economic, one of the principal ways they make money is diamonds. Russia makes a whole lot of diamonds too, don't they? So Russia, mines a whole lot of diamonds. So if Israel ain't in the diamond business, it drives up the price of diamonds, and Russia now starts to make a lot more money on diamonds. Also, let's not forget, what else does it do? Conflict in the Middle East drives up the price of oil. What does Russia sell? Right? And what is Iran selling? What are the Middle East countries selling? So the Middle East countries, if they keep slowly but surely nickel and dime the U.S. empire, they drive up the price of oil that they are selling to the U.S. empire. So they keep punching away at the troops. You don't have to obliterate them. You don't want to obliterate them. That makes it easy. If you obliterate a base in Iraq, let's say there's 2 or 3 bases in Iraq. Let's go say 3 bases in Iraq. And the resistance forces attack them and obliterate all 3 of those bases. The U.S. can bomb the areas or whatever, but at that point, they don't have to defend those bases anymore, do they? They're gone. Hey, well, and they can't build new bases because they know they'll get obliterated. So they're like, oh, they obliterated all their bases in Iraq. They don't have to defend them. Hey, they obliterated our bases in Syria. They don't have to defend them. Don't obliterate them. You just make their lives a living hell. That you want them, again, you want to bleed the empire out, right? If that's your, and this is what I suspect. I'm not saying this is what they should do, like they're listening to, geopolitical military strategist Garland Nixon. I'm just a schmuck. I'm not a strategist. I'm just reporting what I see. This is obvious. Right? So you don't destroy the bases. I believe that the resistance forces, see, if you look, let me say this. If you look at the strategy that was used against Israeli, you have to come to the conclusion that these people are brilliant, that their strategies are well organized, are well thought out, and are long-term. These are not stupid people. Like, for instance, I don't know, a Tony Blinken. The guy's got the intellect of a head of cabbage, for God's sake. And that's an insult to a head of cabbage. But he thinks he's a genius. The most dangerous person in the world is an idiot who thinks he's a genius, right? So what do they do? What are they doing? They're taking their time. Every day, you're going to defend your base from some missiles, from drones. We're going to throw some at your ships over here today. You're going to defend them. We're going to just make you constantly defend. You're going to burn up ammo. You're going to wear your people down. You're going to take time. You're going to have to focus on this, right? And let me give you an article. Here's an example of what we are up against, ladies and germs. Look at this here. McGregor, U.S. and Israeli special forces went on a scouting mission to Gaza and were shot to pieces, right? In the last 24 hours or so, some of our special ops forces and Israeli special ops forces went into Gaza to reconnoiter, to plan for where they might want to go to free hostages and make an impact. And they were shot to pieces and took heavy losses, as I understand it. McGregor told Tucker Carlson on Twitter X. And once we are a co-belligerent, we enter this thing, it's going to be very difficult for Russia and Turkey not to also come into this fight against us, because they will not tolerate the sort of collective punishment that Israel plans for Gaza. Now, All those things being as they may, I'm looking at the plans for the resistance forces. And right off the bat, what do you see? They said, okay, we'll set it up and we'll touch it. We'll get them to come in nice and close. And once they get in nice and close, then it's me versus you. And then we can fight. Again, as I've said before, you got some guy that's long with long arms, right? He wants you to be at a distance where he can safely strike out and strike you, right? I got long arms, you're short. I want to reach out and strike you, right? And then I want to bring my weapon back. And if you come within my range, I can strike you as much as I want and keep you at a distance because I have what is it? Length. I have distance from you, right? So if they can fly over Gaza, the resistance fighters are there, whatever you want to call them, the Hamas fighters, you can call them terrorists, doesn't matter to me. You fly over Gaza, you drop bombs. You're at a distance, they can't do it. What do they want? They want you to come on in close. Now we can dance. So what happens? Some U.S. special forces, some Israeli special forces, no doubt, they're most elite people, right? SEAL Team 6 types, right? They go into Gaza. Now the special forces, the Gaza's in there like this. We may not be as well trained as you are, but now it's mano a mano. We got guns, you got guns. We got machine guns. We got Kalashnikovs. We got whatever we can get our hands on, right? But once we get in the rubble, we're down. It's down dirty. I can jump out from behind a boulder with a knife and cut your throat and grab you. I can be a suicide bomber. I can do anything. I can push a boulder. You're walking down. I can throw a brick off a roof and hit you on top of the head and kill you. Once you get up in here close, all of your advantages evaporate. So now, hey, we're going to go into the rubble and see how things look. Don't go into the rubble and see how things look. Like you watch the monster movie, you watch the horror movie, and they're like, hey, there's something over there in the woods. It sounds like growling. Bob, go over there and take a look. Of course, now, if you know the history of Hollywood movies, it's always the black guy, right? It's always there's a bunch of kids sitting at a campfire, and what do you do? Oh, we're out here at werewolf camping site. Yeah. Hey, what's that rumbling and growling in the bushes? And everybody sits around. I don't know. And of course, in Hollywood movies, the black guy, Tyrone. Hey, Tyrone, why don't you run over and take a look? And of course, in the movies, Tyrone doesn't realize it's a movie and a horror movie, and you're the black guy. You're done in the first 5 minutes. You don't know that, right? Because he's in the movie. And they're like, go check it out. And Tyrone says, hey, great idea. Give me a flashlight. They hand him a flashlight. Hey, what are you guys going to be doing while I go check out the growling in the bushes here at werewolf campsite? And they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to hop in this truck and head on back in town and buy some more beer. All right, see you in a few. And we know how that turns out, right? My point being this. Once they go into rubble, they're done. And that's the strength and advantage of the resistance. Up close and personal fighting. Hamas, up close and personal. Guess what? Hezbollah. Think about this. Can the Israelis nuke Hezbollah? It's on their border. Right on their border. They nuke Hezbollah. Good news. We nuked the Hezbollah area. Bad news. They're underground and it didn't take out their underground tunnels. Oh, even worse news. It made a nuclear mushroom cloud and the fallout is all dropping on Israel. Israel is no longer inhabitable. Quick as hell. Let's get everybody out of here because this region is inhabitable. We just destroyed Israel. So they can't nuke Hezbollah. There again. I want distance. I want to reach out and punch you. You're right up in my face. You get right up under here to fight me. This big, strong guy, this long person, get right up in their face. And you have gotten rid of their advantages. Hezbollah is right up in their face. Hamas is right up in their face. And now they can bomb. But the Hamas is like, you can bomb all you want to. One of these days, brother, sooner or later, you got to come in here. And when you do, we're going to put a hurt on your ass, right? And they went in to where they lived there. They know everything. They planned this. You think Hezbollah didn't look at it and say, gee, I wonder what the Israelis and the Americans will do if after this attack? Can't imagine. I guess they'll just, no, they knew what you would do. It's very predictable. So it's like, okay, we're going to do this. They're going to come in. And number one, all this normalization horse crap around that we're going to bring that to a screeching halt. Number two, we're going to get the world behind this. Number three, we're going to get the Muslim united. We're going to bring the Arabs and the Persians, the Sunnis and the Shia. We're going to bring them all together, united against Israel and the U.S. We're going to make this region so hot that the Israelis and the Americans can't stay here. That's what's going on. It's going to get so hot. They can stay there, but their life will be a living hell. The U.S., you're going to keep these bases here. None of them are going to be safe. You can keep these bases here, but you're going to have to defend them day and night. And we're not going to destroy them. We don't want this base destroyed. We just want this base to sit here, and we want you to constantly expend time, expend ammunition, expend everything to defend every single base here. You got however many bases. In fact, they'll probably call the Americans and say, hey, you do me a favor? Yeah, could you build another 100 bases in the region? Why? Yeah, we're running out of bases to attack. We need more bases to attack. The more bases you got, the more we can attack, the more you have to defend. So now we're sitting there. And Ukraine is an economic disaster, and the U.S. has to prop it up. Have you been watching the bond market yesterday, recently? I'm just saying, my Bitcoin, I don't have a lot, but it's doing pretty damn good. In fact, Bitcoin, right here, let me take a look. Let me tell you right now. Oops. Bitcoin over the last week has gone up 13%. Over the last month, Bitcoin has jumped up 25%. Do you think people are happy with the bond market and the stock market and see a bright future? No, they don't. And the U.S. having to prop up an entire country in Ukraine. And as I said, I'm suspecting, I may be wrong, but I'm suspecting that the Israeli tourist season ain't doing so well. That there's not a lot of people saying, hey, let's put together a bunch of people and go to Israel and lay on the beach. And we'll go see all of the tourist sites. I want to go to see the church that Jesus had a Slurpee in. I don't know, whatever, right? The stuff that people do, they doing it because they know. And I don't want to go there. Why? Because a rocket might fall on my lap. Things ain't going good. They're evacuating parts of northern Israel, everything. So the Israelis and the U.S. empire can't stand a long conflict. What I've been saying, all along, what I've been saying all along is, if time is a weapon, utilize the weapon of time. And when you're going against a big, slow brute, use time, use quickness, use speed, use everything that you have. A big, slow brute is powerful, but a big, slow brute has huge vulnerabilities. The U.S. was like, yeah, we got all of these. We got aircraft carriers and missiles and all these things. And the big, slow brute's biggest vulnerability is his mind. You see, you fight with your mind. You don't fight with your muscles in your. You fight. You don't. If somebody attacks you, you can't stop yourself. Well, I wonder if I should block that punch, and then possibly I should throw a combination, and then I'll get my. You don't think that it has to happen. As Bruce Lee says, the punch reaches out on its own. Pop. You don't think about that punch. Somebody does that. Whap. The block reaches out by itself. You don't think about it. Boom. It has to happen automatically, right? The big, slow, cumbersome brute has to think about his next move, telegraph his next moves. What did they do? They had to send some big, slow, lumbering aircraft carriers in the area. Telegraphing, we might do this. We want to do this. Here's a weapon we can use, but it's slow. Moves slow. And an aircraft carrier, if you turn the wheel, does it turn? No, you turn the wheel. And then you wait, and slowly it comes around. It's all slow movement. So the big, powerful brute has power if you just allow him to use his power and strength. But his vulnerabilities are he's slow. He doesn't have the time. He has to use all that strength to, bam, hit something really hard. But if you just make him slowly fight, slowly defend himself in all different directions. Here's the big group. He wants to set you up. He's going to throw this big hook and he's going to knock you in, right? But what if there's a punch coming from over here and over here, a kick from here? Wait, whoa, I got to block this. Oh, you grab something, you throw it at him. He blocks that. You're doing all kinds of stuff. And the big brute who wants to and throw the big punch is now blocking here, doing this. Wait, whoa, wait, what? He's going to be tired. He's going to be tired. You're moving. You don't stand there in front of him and let the big brute go. Oh, you move. You got feet. You move. He's got to go this way. He's going around in circles. You're moving. You're backing up. He's got to advance. You advance. He backs up. Guess what? He's now breathing hard. This big brute, you stay out of his range for a while. You may get right up under him. And he wants to reach out and hit you. You back up further. You keep moving. Keep moving. You use your feet, right? You use time. You use distance, back away, close, all these things. And now the brute who just wants to go, and hit you with a hook, he has to think. He has to look. And you're moving. He comes at you. You kick at you. You might not even strike him. You kick at the kneecap. He's, oh my God, this guy's trying to kick me too. You grab something and throw it at him. Look, he blocks a book that you just threw at him. Now, the big brute can't just set you up for a big right hook and slam you. He now is defending all over the place. He's moving. He's not accustomed to this fight. It's asymmetric. And he's got to turn. You go around him this way. He's got to turn all the way around in circles, all the way around. You go this way. You got that way. He's got to chase after you. You turn around and you run 10 feet from him. He's got to run 10 feet to you, right? You don't let the brute use his big, forceful methods. I think that's what we're looking at here, where the axis of resistance, as they call themselves, you can hate them, you can call them terrorists, whatever you want to call them. They got people everywhere. They got groups in Iraq. They got the groups in Yemen. They got groups all over. Guess what? Watch this. Watch this. This is important. Eritrea. Let me see if it's in the news. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Let me tell you how this is working out. Al-Wawaba, armed attack on Israeli military base in Eritrea, right? This surprise offensive was aimed at the strategic Mount Ambasuri, where Israeli forces maintain an observation post overlooking the Red Sea. The incident has sent shockwaves through the region. What am I telling you? What did I say the other day? I said, look, U.S., we got bases all over Africa. Israel does too. And don't think that they were just, that the resistance forces were just like, well, there happens to be a base there. Let's attack it. Very strategically, it's overlooking the Red Sea. You don't think they're sitting there saying, where are their bases? This one's overlooking the Red Sea. They got eyes on the Red Sea here, 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 and here. Let's take this base out. These are not just stupid, random. That's what they want you to think. Oh, they're just stupid, random Arabs that just run with knives. Oh, Akbar. And they run in and do suicide attacks. These people are very smart. And they're looking, saying, how are they watching the Red Sea? They got bases here, here, and here. Okay, we're going to hit this base, this base, this base. We're going to take their eyes off the Red Sea so they can't see the Red Sea. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do that. See what I'm saying? It's all strategic. But again, the message is clear. There's nowhere that you're safe. You got a base in the Red Sea, you better watch your back. You got bases in Africa, you better look over your shoulder day and night. Day and night. And we're going to hit that base. You're going to rebuild it, and then we're going to hit whatever you rebuild. Let's see how long you can keep this dance up. That's what's going on. And meanwhile, no tourism for Israel. The diamond industry and all of their economy is going to crater. And they brought all of these people who are working in the various industries in Europe. In Israel. They brought them up to fight. They ain't got that many people in Israel. They now have no workers. They now have no what do you call it? Tourism, economic collapse. Economic collapse. How many months can a country like Israel operate with nothing. And the U.S. then has to say, well, we're going to give them $150 billion to keep Israel going. Okay. Oh, by the way, we need $100 billion to keep Ukraine going. Hey, what Taiwan's over there? We need some more weapons. Oh yeah, 20 billion weapons to Africa. Oh shit. And of course, what happens? The bond market. And American people are going to be like, hey, we're homeless. Help us out here. Here, can you help a brother out? Can you help? American people are going to be like, can you help a brother out? We got nothing, right? So all I'm saying is this. I don't think the Russians are in a hurry. Russia's been around 1,000 years. China's been around a couple thousand. I don't think they're in a hurry. The whole Muslim world is sitting there saying, you got the watches, we got the time. We're going to poke, and see what the big, overgrown, muscle-bound brute, see how long he can keep up this fight before he starts to get tired, before he starts breathing hard, before he starts running out of stuff. Look, the Hamas, they don't have to send all of their rockets and overwhelm the Iron Dome system. Everybody knows they got enough rockets. If they want to, they send rockets. They overwhelm the Iron Dome system. The Iron Dome system collapses. It's out of rockets. Then they can send many. But why would you want to do that? Something happens suddenly. Now your enemy has to make a sudden decision and has to escalate. Why would you want to do that? The strength of Hamas is not in overwhelming the Iron Dome and blowing the hell out of Israel with missiles. The strength in Hamas is the threat that they can do that anytime they want to. See, the power is not in acting. Power is only power until you use it. Then it becomes force. I want power over you. And as long as you know, as long as any potential military plan that the U.S. and Israel takes, any strategy that they employ has to take into account that it has to be this. How bad do we want to piss Hamas off? Because we know on any Tuesday, Hamas could wake up and say, we had enough of this bull crap. We're going to send 5,000 missiles straight at your Iron Dome system because you ain't got 5,000 missiles to defend it. So one of two things, you're going to expend all of your missiles and no more Iron Dome system. You're going to expend a portion of your missiles and save some for later, which means all of the ones that you don't stop are going to get through, right? Or you're just going to let them all through and hope for later. You got no win there. So I don't want to do that. I want you to have to plan your strategy knowing that I can do that anytime I want to do that. That's the power, because now I have control not over your military actions, but over your strategies and your tactics. You always have to think twice because you know this guy can punch me in the mouth anytime he wants to. So the power is in not doing it. It's in having the capability to do it. It's in sitting back there crossing your arms and you don't know what I can do. Oh my God, how many missiles do they have? Do they have 10? Do they have 100? Do they have 50,000? How many will they do? Will they target our nuclear power plant? Will they just flatten all of our cities, take out our bases? Oh my God, what will they do? Now I got your ass. You're in a corner, afraid of what I will do. I have exponentially more power if I control your strategy and your thoughts and your mind. I have exponentially more power than I have of just using the weapons that I have. And knowing that you got to think about that, I can continue to just elbow you, to pinprick you, to make your life miserable. And I can also keep those, because if I ever get in a position, as I take my time, and here's the other thing why they want a long-term war here. If I take my time doing this and I'm slow and I move slow, here's the other problem you have, the rest of the world. I can work my diplomacy, right? I can talk with the Russians. Hey, Russians, can you help me out? The Russians are very powerful diplomatically worldwide. And the Russians can say, yeah, I'll work with you. Hey, Chinese, yeah, I'll work with you. And now I'm at the UN, and the UN is things at the UN ain't looking good for the US and Israel. The whole UN has said, screw this, man. The US, we don't like this. The US now has to veto stuff, right? So now I'm home. I got the potential to knock the hell out of you with missiles anytime I want to. So that's something else that I can use to force you to the table. And right now, if Israel goes to the table, it goes to the table in weakness. If the U.S. goes to the table, they go to the table in weakness. They don't go to the table in strength because they need a deal. Israel needs a deal. If I'm Israel and I'm looking at this guy next to me and I know that he can decimate my missile defense system on any given morning, he can disable them, and then every one of my military bases in jeopardy. What happens if Hamas says, first, we're going to send enough missiles to overwhelm the Iron Dome system? And as soon as that goes, oh, how many military bases you got again? Israel, how many? Yeah, we're sending 500 missiles to hit every single one of them. 1,000. Every one of your military bases will be hit by 1,000 missiles. Do you know what will happen to your military bases then? Is that what you want? So I now have leverage. That's the word. If I got all of these missiles and I can light your ass up on any given day. You may not want to admit it. I have leverage. So as things start to work out in the United Nations, hey, we want to talk to Israel. And Israel may say, we don't want to talk to you. Hey, just want to remind you, we got 100,000 missiles sitting there. Just sitting there doing nothing, collecting dust, just throwing that out there. Wouldn't want to see those heading in towards all your military bases. Have a nice day. See ya. And Israel and the U.S. might scratch their head. Perhaps maybe we will talk to these people just a little bit. We don't want to give them anything, but perhaps we'll listen to a little bit of what they got to say at the UNSC. Right now, they won't. Right now, internally, they got to play the tough guy. We're the muscly brute. Ha, ha, ha. But at some point, when the entire UN, when the world is looking at Israel for the things that they've done and looking at the U.S. and inside the U.S., I saw a interview on Breakthrough News. Go look for it. And they were talking to a congressional staffer who was basically saying there's a mutiny going on amongst the congressional staffers. We understand there's some mutiny things going on inside of State Department. You can't keep slaughtering children like that and not expect things to start to fall apart. So if I'm the resistance, I look at that and I say, don't go too far. Just keep the pressure on. Medium pressure, keep it coming. Because I see you getting weak. And I'm going to keep the pressure on, and you're going to get weaker and weaker, and you're going to get pressure from me. I see pressure coming from the inside. I see dissent. I see dissidents. That's what I want to do. Iran has no reason to get involved in this. Has no need to get involved in this. Iran can lay back and say, hey, man, we're going to try to talk, and we're going to threaten, and we might have to jump in, blah, blah, blah. And let me say this. Let's just say there's a ground invasion. And a lot of these are saying if there's a ground invasion, I don't think they have to. I think if there's what we've seen recently, if there's a ground invasion, then Israel and the U.S. says, we're going in, and they go in, they're just going to get chewed up. And I think Hamas and Iran will be like, yeah, there's a ground invasion. Ooh, that's going to hurt. They're going to look up. Yikes. U.S., yeah. Go on in. We're going to sit back here. And of course, what's going to happen in Israel is their troops get chewed up. What's going to happen in the U.S. if we send in special forces and none of them come out? So if there is a ground invasion, they're threatened to act. They don't have to act. You know what it's almost like? It's almost, don't throw me in that briar patch with Brer Rabbit, right? It's almost like they're sitting there saying, you better not do a ground invasion, whatever you do. Damn it. If you do a ground invasion, that's it. That's really going to piss me off. Oh, man, you do that. It's me and you, brother. Don't you dare do a ground invasion. And meanwhile, Hamas is sitting back there shining up the old stock on their AK-47s, their 60 caliber machine guns, all the things they need for close up and friendly contact, and meanwhile, they're screaming, whatever you do, don't do that, because then we'll really be pissed off. And the U.S. empire is like, well, we'll fix you. We will go in amongst the rubble and we'll face machine gun nests at. Oh, yeah, that's right. We'll be going to fetch machine gun nests and stuff like that. But then we'll bomb them, and our troops will be in there too, so we won't be able to bomb them, will we? Maybe it ain't such a good idea after all. And Israel's going to be saying, it's been 6 months. We have no economy. We need 200 billion this time. Because let's face it, they got like free college, and they got like everybody has government health care. You know, the things that we can't afford in the United States that we're told, yeah, they can afford them in Israel because we're paying for them, and they're going to be making nothing. We'll be paying for all of them. What do you think? All right, guys. Thanks a lot, everybody. I will ask this. I got to get ready to run. I will ask everyone to do me a favor, and that favor is I got to run. But if you can, you see everything going across the bottom. Telegram, follow me on Telegram. Of course, we got Patreon. You all know how that works. Buy me a coffee is great. I always tell everybody it's great because you can go there and it'll say, buy Garland a coffee, $5. How many coffees do you want? Click. And it's just like Patreon now. If you so choose, you can say, well, I want to be a monthly subscriber and buy Garland a monthly coffee for $5. So buy me a coffee is really great. Cash App, my information is in there. Last but not least, in case they throw me off, go to rockfin.com, rockfin.com. Go to Rockfin and follow my become a member. Doesn't cost a dime. Become a member if you can afford it on Rockfin. If you can afford it, you can become a member of that channel. Excuse me, a subscriber is $14.99 a month. You can become a subscriber. It'll be anybody that can do it. I appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. If you can't do that, share this on all your social media platforms and just become a member anyway. So that way you can see all the stuff on Rockfin, particularly if they toss me off. Peace. I'm out.